Hello everyone, my name is Miranda and my topic for this presentation is the comprehensible input hypothesis. This hypothesis was proposed in the 1970s by linguist and educator Stephen Krashen, who has provided influential theories on second language acquisition. Krashen proposed this hypothesis because he believed that learning a second language can be done just how humans learn their first language. Because of this, it is believed grammar structures are acquired in a certain order and they start simple but become more complex as people get older. What is the comprehensible input hypothesis? The comprehensible input hypothesis states that people learn language best when they receive input that they understand but are a bit more advanced than what they already know. With this hypothesis, you'll often see the formula I+1. I stands for the current level of understanding by the person, and the +1 means the next level needed for communication. It is important not to make the input too complex, because then the learner will be completely lost with the new language. Here is one example. Imagine you're learning a new language by talking to a native speaker. They speak to you slowly and clearly using gestures and simple words. Even though you don't understand everything they say at first, you start to pick up words and phrases from context. As you continue talking to them regularly, you begin to understand more and more of what they say without needing them to simplify as much. This process shows how consistent exposure to meaningful and comprehensible input, even if initially challenging, helps you learn a language effectively over time. I like to use the example of Spanish speakers when they say they're asking to use the bathroom. I don't know the first part, but when I hear the el baño, I'm like, oh, they're asking where the bathroom is. So sometimes you pick up on little words or gestures that you understand, and over time you'll pick up more and more as long as you're exposed to that meaningful communication. Since we are all going into the education field, here are some beneficial ways we can utilize this hypothesis in our work. First, we can provide context-rich input. Make the content fun and engaging so the students will be more interested. 2, adjust language complexity. This is where you want to encourage that formula of I+1. If a student is at a lower level of understanding and comprehension, you do not want to start speaking fluent in the language or give them material that is too advanced for them. Just start slightly above at that +1 level. 3, visual aids and gestures are very important. This not only helps with comprehension, but they can make connections between visuals and words they do not yet know. 4, promote extensive reading and listening. Have them practice at home, on the bus, or wherever they have free time. 5, integrate other language skills, listening, speaking, and reading, for example. Some praises of this hypothesis include supportive research, showing learners who receive ample exposure to meaningful language input and context develop language skills more effectively. The focus on input allows focus on more meaningful communication instead of explicit grammar instruction. This hypothesis can be applied to any age, gender, or used in any context, such as at school, home, or meeting a stranger on the street. Lastly, it is praised for having practical application in teaching language and advocates for language-rich environments. There are some flaws with the comprehensible input hypothesis. The first flaw is the limited focus on the output. So the input is what we hear and what we take in. The output is us speaking or writing the material. Critics argue that language proficiency also requires active use and practice of language skills in communicative contexts such as speaking and writing. So critics are saying that just hearing it is not enough for us to learn the language. that it needs to be applied and practiced through speaking and writing. But then again, we see as babies, when we learn our first language, we have to start just by hearing it. So there's some contradictory there. Another flaw is the ambiguity of comprehensible input. Since everyone has a different input level, it may be difficult to figure out what that +1 level is needed for each individual. So everyone has a different level of communication that we can receive input in. As teachers especially, it is hard to gauge where each individual child is at, and would be hard to take material for each individual student at their level or the +1. There has been some contradictory evidence and research findings. Some linguists in the field found that the comprehensible input hypothesis lacked effectiveness compared to other language teaching approaches. Lastly, some educators believe that explicit instruction is needed, especially for the older students. Though the input is important for younger kids, older learners may benefit from explicit grammar instruction to enhance accuracy and proficiency in the target language they are learning. Here are my references. Thank you for watching my presentation.